Hi, everybody. It's Dale Walsh. Welcome to Straight, Sane Sober for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. Happy New Year. I've had some technical glitches lately, so I haven't really been on in the new year, but welcome, everybody. And today our guest is Christianne Zurowski, who has her own company, Next Chapter Coach, and she's into mindfulness and the wisdom of the body, and we're going to have a fascinating discussion, but let me just try to get this going. I hope I pressed the right one. Hi, everybody. Let me. Hi, everybody. Can,
I'm here for you, Dale.
I don't know. Can you hear us? I can't see us. Let me see if I can delete video. Hello. I hope everybody can hear us. I don't.
I can hear you, Dale, but I do not see you.
Okay. Well. Let me see. Brand.
I can hear you, Dale, but all I see is the intro.
I know. I don't know whether. I don't know what's going. Well, let's assume that we're going on. So, hi, everybody. I don't know. Once again, I'm having a call. Everybody here, maybe could comment and let me know. Great to know. But I'm here with Christianne Zurowski. Hopefully you're hearing us, and I don't know what happened with the banner, but Christianne is a mindfulness coach and company's called. Before we get into it, I want my New Year's poem. I'm doing a poem a day for all of 2023. So hopefully this will resonate with people. It's called "Getting Cosmic in Old Age." In the shadow of the winter unknown, I sleep with hibernating bears without hunger, and console myself against the cold by their fur, in a cave protected from awakenings, while outside the hunters conspire against me. and I am the spirit of the lunacy of the morn, eclipsed in frigid waves of uncertainty, calling me to howl with the wolf at the orb, and the penumbra moves slowly into radiance, and the prospect of enlightenment beckons. From the far corners of this tiny galaxy, revolving uncharted around the central soul, as the soul of the slumbering Lord tosses upon the celestial waterbed of desire, energizing every creature with victory lust. So now I ponder essence of attraction, considering the eminence of our gravity, pulling all to death among illusion of life, while earth is grounded with permanent sense of bliss few have ever actually experienced. So I am sorry I don't have visual. I don't even know we're on. So if you could comment, I'd appreciate it. But welcome, Christianne. I hope once again we're having technical difficulties, but how are you?
I am great. Thank you. And thanks for sharing your poem. I can't believe you're writing one of those every single day. That is a lot of processing right there. That was not a short poem.
Well, I just got what I usually do is I get the inspiration of the first one or two lines, and then I just improvise and take it where it goes.
That's pretty cool. I love poetry. I don't write any of my own, but I sure love it. And I'm doing really well today. I'm looking out the window, and it's a rainy day. Earlier, before I hopped on here, I was asking a friend of mine to send me some pictures from Mexico. She just got back to be inspired by the beach. And I can see the raindrops accumulating on the trees, and it's pretty but dreary. How about you, where you are?
Well, it's partly cloudy, partly sunny. It's a chill day, but not too bad. I walked for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes earlier, and it was the wind would come up and it would be pretty chilly. But other than that, the winter has been very mild in New Jersey, so we got no complaints. And this has been the trend for the last few years. We've gotten through January fine, and then February and March it really hits. So, but so tell us about next chapter. Tell us about next chapter coaching and what you do, and tell us. Oh, here we go. Now we're back. It's great to see your beautiful face.
Nice to see you too. It's better than just the audio.
So thank you, whoever did that. So, tell us about yourself and your journey and next chapter coaching. I want to know about the name Next Chapter Coaching, and we'll just start with that.
Sure, thank you. So I've been working as Next Chapter Coach for the last 5 years. And prior to that, I was a high school teacher. So I love that career. But after 17 years is when I finally phased out of that. And I left my classroom when I got pregnant and had my son. And I decided that that's enough for that last stage. I'd been percolating on what to do next and how to challenge myself and how to just grow into my next phase for a few years. So when I had my son, I left. I went back to school. I got trained. I became a coach. And then I've been working as a solo entrepreneur under Next Chapter Coach, like I said, for 5 years. So it's been a really awesome journey. Solo entrepreneurship, if anybody out there owns a business, is this peaks and valleys that I did not expect at all from my cushy little teacher job. And I say cushy in that I could walk in, know what I was doing every day. I could leave. The people magically showed up in my classroom most of the time, unless they were skipping because it was high school. And I loved it. I got to make a difference every day. So this was a really cool natural progression for me, where I still get to work with developing people and helping them find their strengths and their confidence. And it was just really exciting to be able to do all my favorite things. And I always joke, without any of the junk I didn't like. I no longer have to mark. I no longer have to write exams. I don't have to go to meetings. I just get like the best of the best people part, which is the part that lit me up. So that's my progression. And over the last 5 years, I've kind of been evolving what my favorite parts are. So for me, my most favorite part, besides developing strengths and confidence, was this connection between mind and body. And this cultural thing that we have going on, right? Where I always say we live in a decapitated body. So we live in this state where we think that the brain is really important. And I knew that as a teacher. You just fill it full of content and academic, and you learn, and you logic your way out of situations, and you think your way through problems, and you problem solve. And they're really great skills. However, what it does is it disconnects you from everything else. And it's like, I love the expression, your body becomes a chauffeur for your brain. And that's kind of crappy.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Right? Like, your brain is really important, but it's not the only thing. You don't just need a chauffeur. They need to work together as a team if you want them to be at their optimal state. So I love somatic coaching and embodied transformation. And I love anything that just allows us to tap into all this awesomeness that we already have within us that we've been conditioned to suppress. So, it gets swept away as woman's intuition, or it gets swept away, oh, your gut feeling's made up and your heart doesn't know anything. Lead with your head. If you lead with your heart, you'll get lost. So we've got all these expressions in our society that mock all this awesomeness that we have. And if we could stop dividing the two and come to this integrated place, then we get this magic, this alignment that people are seeking. Right? I like to call myself find your authentic you at any stage in life. So how do you find that authentic piece that's 100% feels like you, like you're not trying to be somebody else, like you're not doing all the shoulds of society and like trying to compare yourself, and you just cut the crap. Am I allowed to say that? And then you are just truly you, and you get to emerge as that person. And the only way to do that is if you know who you are. So that's the self-awareness piece. And then once you're self-aware, you have to merge. It's like part of your puzzle piece. You got to merge them together so that you can be one awesome operating whole, so that you can make decisions from this place of integrity and alignment that feel amazing. And you're never pulled between, should I have done that? Should I have said that? What is so-and-so going to think? Because you did what serves you. And the other catch is that it also serves other people. Like, you're living in this space of connectedness with yourself and others, and not this separate, divisive power struggle in your brain and your heart and your body.
Of integration.
Yeah.
Right.
Bit of a mouthful.
Well, that's one thing that I've become fascinated by lately, is that science showing that actually your brain is your like weakest mind. Your heart is like, has like a much strong, like incredibly stronger magnetic pull, and then also the mitochondria and the gut. They're saying there are three brains in the body. There's the gut, there's the heart, and there's the one in your head. And
Right.
so consequently, the competition, it shouldn't be a competition. It should be a cooperation and a synergetic mixing of the three. But we're so focused on logic, and I think this is changing. More and more people are like, dedicated to being themselves. And actually, my coach, who recently died of cancer, but he wrote a book called Your Soft Inner Whisper, and he said, live below your neck. Just like, don't let your brain dominate, and consequently, he gave all sorts of examples where when he used his brain, everything went wrong. And I'm not saying that's always the case, but there's been such a emphasis on the left side of the brain and the logic and the memory and the facts and everything, that what you call the empath brain and also the heart and the gut have been like forgotten. But I think that's changing radically quickly.
Yeah, and that's so cool to live in this world where we're finally opening up to that. Neuroscience is finding out all sorts of proof to show that those are legitimate sources of information, right? I came across a stat that your gut sends 9-to-1 signals up, like 9 more than your brain sends down. So your gut's constantly informing you, and we're constantly suppressing it. So those like knots in your stomach where you're nervous about something, if we all as humans took time to pay attention to that, what are they telling us? What am I feeling? You might be able to operate from this calm, clear state where you understand your body and what's happening and why you're reacting, and shift how you show up, right? So the noticing allows us to make the changes we need so that we can operate in this aligned state, as I said. But they have to work together, right? Like anything in the world, if we're always working divide and conquer, then everything's divided and nothing cooperates. And to speak to your example about your coach, when you follow your head, he made all these mistakes. I would probably hazard a guess that when he followed his head, there was a strong pull from his body, like an oppositional pull. Right. Because when they're aligned, you can still follow your head, would be my guess.
Well, one thing that he really emphasized in his book, and he used a great deal of examples, but he said that when he just listened to a sweet inner voice, that everything would turn out right, and that seems to be like the voice of God or universe or whatever you want to call it. And that if that's transmitted to the brain and you follow it, fine. But the brain, I think, is basically the seat of the ego, and the ego is like in we'll just say competition with the universe for your soul, and and the desire to live from your soul is something that's becoming more prominent, but it's something that we're so divorced from over such a long time, basically since the age of enlightenment, that it's a real battle. And so the to live from your soul is to be in touch with God and the universe, but to live from your brain is to be in touch with the 3D reality, where money and struggle is the reality, whereas everything really should be easy and flowing.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Where we can live in flow, where we're not fighting and struggling, and there's an ease, and we're following what's meant to be. If I can add a touch of explanation there, I know if any of my followers are on here, they might not use the words 3D and 5D, but that idea of living in the busy hamster wheel of life, that's what I call the 3D, this on earth stuff that you've caught up in the rat race, and then the 5D is that where we're trying to evolve our consciousness and live a conscious life and get out of that rat race, right? Just for layman's terms, if that's okay, lay people.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And it's this connecting with self. And some people react to connect with God. They don't love that. Call it whatever you like. You're connecting with that piece of intuition, that piece when you say your soul, that when you're listening to what your body and your heart and all these vibrations, there's so many different language that mean the same thing. Like, it doesn't matter what religion around the world, what ancient practice or modern neuroscience, they're all saying the same thing with different words. So if we can stop and listen to the other realm and give it some space and not like shove it down in the box and put the lid on, or like that boiling pot analogy, like it's coming out, it's trying to say something, and you shove it down. Right. There's a space for what you could call source or God or intuition or your connected heart or insert blank.
Well, one thing you just triggers one of my favorite quotes is, even if you escape the rat race, you're still a rat.
Oh, well, that's a sad statement.
But well, I a lot of people I follow are like really into like the fifth dimension and the coming Christ consciousness and everything. But the fact is that the parameters and the structures of the world have been like so solidly in place for such a long time that even if you hit down the structure of authority and power, the foundation is still there. So that's really what every individual has to work at, is to get to that foundation of the soul within, instead of just saying, well, this is the life that I've lived, I've been giving, and I have to give into these rules. But one thing, as a mindfulness coach, I wanted to talk about the difference between meditation and mindfulness. And I mean, mindfulness is like a term that's like more and more thrown around, and the more it's thrown around, the less clear I think it becomes. So, could you enlighten us a little bit about that, Christianne?
Sure. That's a great question that I'll speak to, but probably won't even be able to answer, because you're right. It's a buzzword. Everybody talks about it. What does it even mean anymore? There's like the modern kind of mindfulness, which is about, I tend to use the modern form. So if we talk about being mindful, we are thinking with our mind about what is going on right now. And we are not thinking about tomorrow and yesterday. We're being present. So we're being conscious and how we're feeling, what we're thinking, what our body's doing, what's going on around us. And we're trying to be as present as possible. And there's a cajillion different practices to have, a mindful practice. There's like lots of ways to do it. So that's where I think
Right.
your question really fits. Whereas meditation, I speak to that a lot, this ancient Buddhist type of meditation, or there's lots of types of meditation. It's about trying to enter a different state and listen, and often comes with this silence that freaks people out. If you don't have a practice, the thought of sitting silently with your thoughts is so scary. So I never start there with my clients. Like, forget this, sit in silence like a Buddhist monk. And how about we just start with some mindful awareness of our body? And so that's a flip from a top down, where we're brain focused and going down, to bottom up. So I invite my clients, just, wiggle your toes. What are you feeling? What are you feeling in your hands and your feet, and that kind of body awareness? And then follow that. To back it up, even what I do with all my clients is switch from external to internal. So always about the five senses. What can you notice around you? What can you notice about your body, your toes, your feet, your legs? What can you notice about your breath and your posture? And then you turn inward. What about your emotions? And then you kind of go through this cycle. And, the current number I've heard is it takes 90 seconds to process an emotion. So if you can give yourself some space, 90 seconds is nothing. To just like, oh, when I'm really pissed off, I notice my jaw clenching. I notice my brow furrows and my hands clench. Everybody's different. And then you just notice, like, I call it, where's Waldo? I like to use simple terms to describe big concepts. So where in your body does anger come out? How many places can you notice? And then all of a sudden, the anger dissipates. You're like, oh, that's what it felt like. And you can be in a new place because you've allowed it to go through you rather than suppress it. So to me, that's the first mindfulness tool I always start with. And it's just a body awareness and noticing of whatever that feeling and thought, how it's coming out in you. Maybe, we have 10 different types of anger. Anger because my kid didn't listen. Anger because I screwed up. Anger because something didn't work out the way, right? And then you start to build emotional granularity and awareness and zoom it from out here to in here. So mindfulness is a huge term about being presently aware. But for me, the way I use it is a somatic embodied mindfulness. And how can you take in sensory information? Because once you're feeling your body, you're not thinking thoughts. So it's a shift from your brain to your body. Stop thinking and start feeling. So turn off the brain switch, turn on the body switch, be mindfully aware of what's happening. Stop freaking out about tomorrow and yesterday, what just happened, and just like land in this present moment and see what's coming up. And that's like step one. So when you add meditation and all the things that you're talking about, consciousness and 5D, we're way past step one. Step one, you're noticing.
Right.
Then you're looking for patterns, right? Oh, that's what happens when I'm disappointed. That's what happens when I'm frustrated. That's what happens when I'm anxious. And then once you find patterns, then you can start noticing in the moment, right? And that's mindfully aware, and you can shift the way you react or stop reacting and respond. And then after that, you're into the next one, right? Oh, now I can use this information to inform my decisions. So when we talk about your coach who led with his head, now I understand what my body says when I feel like that's a bad idea, right? Oh, bad ideas come in the pit of my stomach, and good excitement comes in the top of my flutter chest. Bad, scary excitement is at the bottom, and you start to differentiate. So that's like your next level. Oh, this one's happy excitement and this is bad. And now I can make a decision better because I understood that piece. And then you start to connect it with that intuition and that soul, and we create some space to like hear more deeply, right? And to connect more deeply and allow that next level to come out, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It does. The question that comes up, I've just been doing a 5-day training on tapping and emotional release and everything. So,
Cool.
I think you might have answered this with talking about the body, but where does emotion fit in all this?
Oh, really, really good question. So the emotion is usually what's causing the physical outlet. So as you're noticing your body sensations, the last piece, like when we're early, if I talk about like 5 steps, leveling up so that we're more conscious, if you're here and you notice that the constriction in the throat and you're releasing, you go, oh, I feel that when somebody in a meeting cut me off and didn't let me speak, for example. And that emotion is maybe feeling disrespected, or it comes from feeling unheard, which aren't actually emotions. But what I feel is unseen and small and disappointed. And then you start to associate the situation with the emotion, right? So that's also needs a vocabulary. So
Right.
for me, it's matching your body language with your vocabulary of emotions. And when you can name, go ahead.
No, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When you can name
the emotion, because your question was about emotion, anxiety can be from 10 different things. Once you start to get a bigger vocabulary than I'm mad, sad, and frustrated, right? Mad, sad, frustrated, and happy, 4 emotions. If you can, every time you expand beyond that, you can link it to what that feels like. You've just learned that message from your body. So the emotion is the driver of the physical outlet, right? So we have a thought, it makes us feel an emotion. People will argue which comes first.
right.
And then it comes out in your body. And for people that ignore their body, they never know what to do with the thought and the emotion. They just keep powering through life. And I'm going to shove that in the closet and close the door and not think about it. But once you start to notice and name it and connect it to the body language, then you've got evidence for what's happening to you, evidence what's happening around you, and evidence to inform your decisions and to help you choose what state you want to be in, so that you're not letting that rule you and run away from you, right?
Right. Well, the thing that's where it comes to my mind is basically you're talking about they say your subconscious never forgets a thing. So, emotions, thoughts, experiences, trauma, all those things. And so basically, I think what you're saying is that we have an archive of emotions, an archive of memories and emotions and feelings, and when we duplicate those feelings in a later moment, then the reaction from that original emotion comes through. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah.
pretty fair?
Yeah, I love that summary of it. I would never have used those words, but yeah, that is what I'm getting to, right? We collect these experiences and they're associated with feelings, and then those inform our next experiences. If anybody's heard of the ladder of inference, it's another model for like, this happened once and then this happened this minute and it made me mad, and then the more it happens, similarly we jump from being mad to, well, that jerk must have meant this, when none of that was true.
Right.
That was just a collection from your archive, as you put it. I love that description.
Well, the training I was taking is by this lady named Sarah Longoria, who's like I've been following. I was a private coachee of hers for like a year, and when I started, she was like making like $50,000 a year, and by the time I left, she was a millionaire. So,
Wow.
but she said she uses EFT tapping. I don't know if you know about that, but she uses EFT tap to and says, until you get that archive of emotions out and like really become aware of them, then you're just going to be constantly, not maybe not constantly, but you're just going to continue to be triggered by the same things. And it's the work you have to do is to be able to tap out those emotions so that you don't become triggered.
Yeah, I would see that as a strategy to release those emotions. And there's so many now, right? Like there's somatic therapy, which is a different way, and there's EMDR with the eyes, and there's lots that are trying to tap into the part of your body where you stored that emotion. And if it's trauma, then it's a big emotion that you don't want to be reliving, right? So, but all of the connection is back, like the brain and the body. So this happened, you made meaning, it feels awful, and it's trapped somewhere. And if we don't release the trapped, if we don't process and connect and integrate, like you said, then we're in a loop, and that loop can suck, especially if it was trauma. Yeah. And tell me more. You're practicing this now, or just learning about it, or tell us more about the tapping.
Well, actually, I've known about tapping for a long time, and I never got into it. It never did that much for me, but I don't know whether that's because everything's so deeply buried that I have to keep tapping for months to have it come up, or whether, I have two other alternate explanations. One is that I've done so much therapy that, like, I've gotten all those bad emotions, well, negative or whatever you want, all those emotions out of me, and so very little triggers me. And the other thing is, maybe it's just my medication, keeps me on an even plane, that, but I don't know what the explanation is, but I've always been fascinated by Sarah Longoria. She, if you want to check her out, she actually has a website called, an app called HeyYouHuman.com. So, but I just you offered to, like, give us like a little demonstration or practical mindfulness exercise we could do. Are you still interested in doing that?
Sure. Which one do I want to pull out of the hat? Well, if I were to start with my favorite, it's called Take 5. And Mindwell U out of UBC created this Take 5 concept, and I tweaked it just a little bit so that it adds one more element. So because I love somatic intelligence and somatic experiencing so much, I'll speak to that really quickly first. If anybody likes to follow, Amanda Blake has a really great book, Your Body is Your Mind. And most somatic topics always come back to trauma. It's always trauma, which can feel super heavy. And I love that her book put it into business. So she just deals with it with leaders, with everybody. It doesn't have to be trauma related, because everybody's body is a source of wisdom. It doesn't just have to be trauma and release. So for me, that really called me, because I don't like to keep those different. And I know that, the mental health warriors is about mental illness, but again, it's not my favorite word. I don't like to live in the space of illness. I like to look in, the coach in me. What are some strategies you can use to feel fit, right? So not discounting it, but what I love about this somatic intelligence in this perspective is it's for everybody. It's not just to release trauma. So I'll add that. And the idea that there's 5 awarenesses that we have to develop. There's the emotional that you mentioned.
Before we go into, could you just explain somatic,
like define it?
Sure. A little more, because I'm not sure people understand. I'm not sure I understand myself. So
thank you. So soma comes from the Greek word body. So somatic is about body awareness. It's a fancy word to say that. So if we're developing our somatic intelligence, it's built on our felt sense, which means we're not thinking it, we're feeling it. So we've got sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. But the one that's missing in that is movement, in the way we function in space. So we often forget that piece of the way we show up. So to expand on that, the theory is that we have 5 awarenesses, to use a different term, as opposed to 5 senses. One awareness that we want to develop is emotional awareness, right? So we mentioned that. How are you feeling? What is that like? Okay, then the other one is cognitive awareness. We live in that zone in our world. We're always thinking. We're thinking about what we're thinking. We're thinking about what we didn't think. We're thinking about what other people are thinking. Right. So these two are pretty common. Sometimes emotion is hard for people. Then there is the exteroception. That is the external world. How aware are you of what's going on around you? Are you super self-involved and only thinking of you? Or do you notice when a human walks by, the dog passes, there's a truck outside, how setting and the way you set up your office impacts things? So we're looking at outside of ourselves, right? So we've got our thoughts, we've got our emotions, and we've got the outside. Those seem to be easier depending on who you are. And then the two that tend to be the hardest to develop in my experience are interoception, noticing what's going on inside you. Can you feel your heartbeat? That subtlety. Can you feel your breath moving up and down, expanding your stomach, right? Can you feel, when you pay close attention, your circulation? Like maybe if you go for a hard exercise and you can feel your blood pumping, you'll feel more of a contrast. Can you feel pressure in your stomach, or that knot or that piercing pain when you have anxiety? So that's your internal interoception. And people ignore that. That's where we get a lot of our information. Then there is proprioception. Did I miss one? Yeah, proprioception. And that is a fancy word for our posture, our alignment, the way we move. So if we can be aware, for example, of people like YouTube and have seen like superhero pose, right? When you want to feel powerful, you spread your legs, you take up space, you put your hands on your hips, and you breathe and you feel big. And just by shifting the posture, it changes the way you feel. So are you small, and are you like hunched in forward, and you're making yourself small? And how do you act in life when you're little versus how do you act when you're like this? And what's common for you? Do you commonly and naturally lean into a problem? Or when something's going wrong, do you lean back? Do you cross your arms, right? We hear about an interview, good interview style. You want to have open posture. Don't cross your arms. Don't look standoffish. All of those things are an expression of what we're thinking and feeling, what's going on for us. So if we can build an awareness of that natural physical expression, right? When I'm mad, I do this. And when I'm scared, I go like this, right? And when I'm learning, do I learn like this, or do I learn like, just it's building awareness. So when I say mindfulness, I'm talking like a huge umbrella of many things. So
right.
I'm going to repeat those 5 so that we can hop into this next experience that you asked for. Cognitive, your thoughts, where we live. Emotions. We've been trying to, emotional intelligence, that term came out a few decades ago. We work on that. Interoception. What's going on inside your body? Does your back hurt? Do you have a knot somewhere? Is your hip aching? Do you have is your heart beating fast because you're nervous, right? Are you starting to get sweaty and hot because you're nervous? All those things. Proprioception, the way you take up space, the way you move, the way you sit in a chair, the way you walk, the way you go into a room or a meeting, all those physical expressions. And then the outside world, exteroception. So if we can build all 5 of those, we are really collecting way more data to inform our decisions, because we didn't just think in our heads. We collected data from all these sensory experiences happening around us, so that when we go, I'm going to make a decision, like your coach said, when you only acted your head, one of the 5, you're probably going to choose wrong if you ignore the other 4, if they're in opposition. But if you're trained them to be in a space where they work together, you're never going to choose wrong. Like, think of the odds if you like math. I don't, so I can't give you the stats there. But if you have 5 intelligence working together, what are the odds of getting it wrong?
Right. Well, you made me very self-conscious, Christianne.
Why?
I was like sort of leaning forward, so I sat back and uncrossed my arms and
right. And even like I notice your neck is naturally forward. So feel the difference when you roll your shoulders over your hips, and imagine your spine as a straight pole. So tilt your chin up just a touch. You're doing this. See if you can tilt your chin up, Dale. I'm watching you. There you go. Roll your shoulders and feel like your spine looks straight. If you've ever done yoga, This is a common practice because they're working with mind, body, and yoga. And I like to do this experience standing up. Are you ready for the practice? You look ready. Yeah?
I'm ready.
Okay, so that's just an explanation of what's happening, because you like to learn and ask really cool questions. This is a 5-minute or less practice that will practice all the things I just said in one. And if you could do it every day, you're going to build those awarenesses. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through five quick steps, and we're going to move from the external world to the internal world. That's what we're doing, because we live in a world that likes to do external. Think, 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 and only look out. So we're turning in. Okay, so if anybody out there wants to practice with me, I invite you, close your eyes if you want to. If not, leave them open. You're at home, do whatever makes you feel good. Okay, Dale, you and me. I'm going to ask you to first notice anything in your surroundings that's sensory, that you have not noticed until now. Sight, smell, sound, touch, taste. I just heard a car drive by. That's mine. Can you name it out loud so I know you're with me?
Okay, my green bottle on my windowsill.
Okay, so that's a visual thing you just noticed. I noticed an auditory thing. For those people out there following along, I just heard my coffee maker do that little click because it turned off. Maybe you notice the spider web you haven't cleaned in your corner. Maybe you notice I've got essential oils going. Pay attention. Or shoot, it's time to take out the trash. Just notice. Okay. So step 1, notice something outside. Step 2, I'm going to ask you to make sure your feet are planted on the ground. You can be seated or standing. And wiggle your toes. We're going to go through our body sensations. And notice what's on your feet. You got slippers, socks, shoes. Are you barefoot? Just wiggle and feel where the pads of your feet make contact with wherever you are. Right? Are you in a cozy chair and maybe they're floating? You would feel nothing but air. Just wiggle them. We never pay attention to our feet. They move us through life and we ignore them, unless there's a blister. So move north. We're going to go up our calves, and I'm going to ask you to notice the places that are contacting the chair, wherever you're sitting. So feel the chair on the back of your thighs. Is it hard? Is it soft? If you have pants, maybe you don't feel the texture, but do you feel the edge of it cut into the back of your thighs? How does the part in the air feel different than the part on the chair? Just notice. Pay attention to things you hadn't. I'm going to add a caveat here. Not everybody pays attention to their body, especially if there has been trauma. So if you don't feel anything, that's just fine. Notice that you feel nothing. That's all we're asking. So if you feel nothing in your legs, then you feel nothing in your legs. Now notice your back. Are you leaning on the chair and making contact? Do you feel supported? Or are you straight and in the air? Just notice. Feel your hands wherever they are.
Normally against the chair, but right now I'm independent.
Okay, well, feel how that feels. Is it putting strain on your back because you're using your muscles that you normally don't? Right? Does it hurt? Is there an ache anywhere because you're supporting it? Yeah, tell me about it. Is it like muscular tension or like a knot?
It doesn't hurt, but there's a little tension, just sort of like muscles that haven't been used for a while or sort of like stretching.
Right. So what you're noticing just by saying that is that typically you support your back, and right now your muscles are working to support themselves. We're just noticing.
Right.
Notice how it feels in your hips. Right. Your hips feel kind of creaky because you're supporting yourself, and you're normally collapsed. Or just notice. If that's not working, feel your hands. Or do you have them crossed, and are they making contact with each other? Is your skin cold? Do you have any numbness or tingling? Are they touching the fabric on your pants? All we're doing is noticing. And I'm making this take longer than it needs to because I'm guiding you. You could do this quickly on your own. So we're noticing our body. Now we're moving internal another step. I'm going to ask you to really pay attention to your posture. So you already were supporting your own back. I'm going to ask you to move your shoulders so that they're stacked over your hips. So Pay attention what you had to do to get there. Were you leaning a bit forward before? Now you have to lean back. Were you slouched to one side and now you're straightening? Just notice what your tendency is. And I'm going to pay particular attention to lifting the chin, squaring the shoulders, and feeling that you are like on a coat hanger, straight, straight, straight. Okay, now we're going to move a little step inwards again and do our breath next. So we're going to breathe in our nose. And I'm going to ask you to audibly release your breath. Nobody can hear you except for Dale. I mean, we can only hear Dale, is what I meant. So if you part your lips, and if your lips are parted and that breath is coming out in an audible way, you get more release than when we close our lips and just breathe through our nose. That can be very relaxing, but opening your mouth gives you more release of whatever's pent up inside. So in through the nose. And with each breath, feel your shoulders drop. Noticeably feel them drop. Dale, I'm going to ask you to lift your head straight. Your chin's collapsing into your chest. There you go. Doesn't have to be lifted, but just straighter. No, up. There you go. Right, perfect. See if you notice a difference. So breathe in. Feel your chest relax. Lots of us hold tension in our chest. I'm going to take you through your body because we're practicing. You can do this fast on your own later. In through your nose. Now find where you have tension in your back. Most of us do. And breathe out, imagining that you're sending the energy there. In through your nose. Send it to whatever spot you like on your back. Now the next breath, I'm going to go in through my nose. Imagine the air coming out your fingertips. You're sending that energy out. Pay attention to what that feels like. Does it feel like anything? Can you feel your arms relax as you do that?
Yes.
Just connecting your mind to your body, right? Feel it right through your fingertips. Do your hands relax? In through your nose. And let it go out through your toes this time, all the way down your legs. See if you notice anything. Do you notice a creak in your knee? Were your toes curled and tense? Does it feel like anything at all? We're just noticing. And the last one's my favorite. We're going to do our head. I'm going to keep my eyes closed and I'm going to feel like there's weights on my eyelids. Taking just all the tension out of my eyes that are focusing, and they're heavy and they're relaxed. Now this one, I'm going to feel my cheeks relax, like there's weights on them. Like my face is melted wax, or I need Botox. Breathe in again. Now feel like you're in the shower and you got that running water down the back of your skull, and your skull is relaxing. Another one. If you're not on camera like us, let your jaw open. Open so wide you feel like you're going to drool. We have so much tension in our jaws. Now, send the last 2 breaths wherever you want in your body. And I'm going to ask you to just sit in that space for a second and identify what's going on in your body. Can you name a feeling or an emotion that's happening right now? How would you describe it? I'll let you share when you're ready, Dale. Mellowness. Tell me more. What does mellowness feel like? Pardon me?
It's it's a state of relaxation and a rest, and just like a feeling of contentment and satisfaction.
Okay. So I'm going to share back with you contentment, relaxation, satisfaction. Those are thoughts. Anything else you can add? A description about your physical state or your emotions?
Feels good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Those are your shares. I'll share some that other people often share for those of you listening. Sometimes people say, I feel empty, like I release this all. Or sometimes they say, I feel floaty, like I'm light, as opposed to the heaviness. Or sometimes I feel kind of tingly and mushy. Or sometimes I feel warm. So those would be sensory words. Dale shared some thinking emotion words. So share whatever comes up and then notice what you're noticing. That's like the next, my tendency is to share thinking words, for example, right? That's the space you inhabit more. And then that experience can be done in 1 minute. I made it really long, right? Name something outside of you, feel your toes, go north, feel your spine, feel your breath, notice your emotion. It can be a 1 minute practice, a 5, a 10, a 20. But by the end where you get to name the feeling, you've processed whatever was happening. And we've taken you through the 5 awarenesses without even having to think about all that explanation that I gave before.
Right.
Right? So it's these 5 steps that bring you to a place of process a feeling, not pushing the feeling away. We've provided space. Now, we didn't talk about how you were feeling at the beginning. So if you were really jacked up and mad and angry and like wanting to throw a book at the wall, and you took some time to do this, you would first notice, oh, and I'm angry, my jaw is clenched, my face is like this, and my fists are clenched, my heart is pumping, and you do this and you would move all that energy and physical outlet into release. And you let go of the anger, is the theory. Right? Did you want to speak to how that felt for you or what came up for you, Dale, or what do you think?
Well, okay. I'm a Gemini, Christianne, so I'm like dominated by my mind. So that I think that's why I like always have like thoughts instead of emotions. But the breath work and basically same thing, like just becoming aware and releasing the negative things that are, like that are plaguing you, and I know that, that was a mindfulness exercise, and it wasn't really like a breathing exercise, but I know that breath work does have there are like a lot of different breath works, and and tapping and meditation. It's all like coming together, and it's a good thing. So it's just it's a state of it's a process of constant learning, and the more tools and methods you know about, the better you'll be able to be in touch with yourself.
Yeah, and you're totally right. That's one strategy. It's one no, right? So tapping is one, EMDR is one, breath work. I mean, we did a little bit of breath work in here and just relaxation, but there's types of prescribed breath work. There is moving meditation when you're running or you're doing yoga. Gratitude can be a meditative practice when you're thinking about what you're grateful for, but when you add the body, how does it feel in your body when you're grateful? Then you've merged mind and body, right? Loving kindness, you can talk about who you love, and compassion, and you're thinking, but you're also feeling it, and the two together is integrated, right? So the more you can do things that are integrated, mind and body, the more you're building that somatic intelligence and that feeling, that sensory place. So anyways.
Well, I think we're basically coming up on time, but why don't you enlighten us about how to get in touch with you, and what programs you got, and just tell us about the nitty gritty of your coaching business, Christianne.
Thank you, Dale. I call myself Next Chapter Coach. So if you want to search out my website, it's www.nextchaptercoach.com. It's easier to spell than my name on the screen there, Christianne Zurowski. You can look me up on Instagram. Next Chapter Coach will pop up. It says Christianne.nextchaptercoach, but I'll populate. If you want to find me on Facebook, Next Chapter Coach, you'll find me again. All easier to spell than that long name you see on the screen. Nobody gets that right. You can find me on LinkedIn, kind of, sort of. I'm just developing LinkedIn, but I'm Christianne Zurowski there. And as for how to work with me, I take one-on-one clients where we can work through this. And you can see the ways I work together on my website. So my favorite is if you commit to the 10 session, 5 month transformational package, and I'll take you through all these things and include some assessments. If you feel like you're already gotten through a lot of that awareness and you just need a little bit of help, you can get 3 sessions and we can work through a singular issue. So that's individual. I started a group coaching program. It's already in the, we're 2 weeks in, so you'll have to wait till the next session comes out. But that has taken everything in my big individual program and turned it into a group. So you get to listen to recorded sessions and then jump on lives with some other people, see some live coaching, see me guide people through some particular skills, and have a network of people to work with and, exponentially grow together. So that's one thing. And then the other space that I really like that is separate is, because I was a teacher, I really love giving workshops. So I go into businesses, offices, or groups with friends, even if you like, and I can give workshops on a variety of topics, including what we just covered. All of them generally start with some sort of mindfulness piece, and how do you tap into yourself, and how do you use that to release all the junk, all these anchors. I work a lot with mantras and stuff. And so that can be in your workspace if you want to bring somebody in to help your employees or your staff or your team, or I give them in the community. You can have, I've done them like book club style too. You hire me and get a bunch of girls or guys or whoever together, and we do a fun session. And then team coaching is the last space. If your team could use some help finding its authentic footing, maybe you're just a new team and your leaders aren't jiving, the communication is not great, you have a new head. So, but in every single space, my goal is to help you clarify your vision for what you want, the direction in which you're going, to be guided by these values of yours that are internal, so that you can be integrated and aligned as an individual, as a team, as a group, however that is. That's my passion right there.
Great. And I'm always interested in your name of your business. That's next chapter. How would you define the next chapter that you help people reach?
Great question. So my favorite place is to help people in transitions. So as I started as a high school teacher, I love the kids that were leaving and they're transitioning from, kid to adolescent to adulthood. And I love that piece where they're trying to be on this precipice of change. And then when I started as a coach, a lot of my world were teachers, and I had a bunch of retired teachers. And, what do I do? I've lost my purpose. This was my whole life. So how do you grow into this next phase of yours? And then, I had my son, so I started to get a lot of clients that were, women, either your kids going back to school, you're re-entering or exiting the workforce. How do I find myself in this next transition of life? So I love working with all sorts of people. And then I've got, the 20-somethings just coming out of university and scared bleepless from real life and adulthood, and the world is awful and I don't want to live in it. And how do they integrate themselves into their next step, into their next chapter in life? So it seemed to suit all the people I like to help. You're frozen.
Good day, Christianne, and it's been very enlightening, and thank you very much. And I hope people will reach out to you, because I know you're an invaluable coach, and just hang in there and just stick around after I close the show, and we'll debrief. But have a great day, and thank you very much for appearing.
Thank you so much, Dale, for letting me practice with you. That was super brave, and I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing.
Well, we appreciate you too. All the warriors do. So thank you.
Thank you so much.